But what scares me the most is the Neapolitan media. To me, they are the worst.
But
you gotta find the right pressure for that particular team.
Spalletti, excuse me, Allegri will make Napoli lose.
Of course, Napoli didn't win anything yet, but for Inter and for Milan especially being out of the Coppa Italia, both of them risked not getting a trophy this season.
Okay, what is up, everybody? Alan M&M. That's what he says. He starts the podcast, every podcast with what is up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of IFTV podcast. We speak about soccer, and soccer. Okay? So on my left, we have Ludo.
That's just in front of
How's
you.
this on your left?
Your
left's over
your
there.
left is there.
No, my left is this.
Oh, yeah, your left is over
on my
there.
left,
Right.
I got Ludo.
Your left is there.
No. Don't, please.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you, Ludo?
Nice to be here.
How are you feeling today, Ludo? How are you feeling?
Great. I feel great every day.
To his left, we have Marco Messina for the friends M&M.
What's up?
Everything is good, Marco?
Everything's good. Is that your Napoli shirt that he's wearing?
No.
That's Frank the Tank's shirt.
Anto's a bandwagon now.
Then to his left, we have MK, Michael Kor. Sorry, Michael Cantaris. Michael Cantaris. How you doing, Mike?
Mike
the Greek.
There we
the
go.
Greek. Il Greco.
Mike the Greek.
Wait, everyone's going to wonder, why are you wearing a Napoli shirt right
He's
now?
a bandwagon
Okay,
fan.
first
You just
of all,
hop from
I
one
am
team to the
happy.
next
He's worse
when they
than
go into
Flipper.
first
I'm
place.
happy
You're worse
that
than
Napoli
Flipper.
is in first place and that Juventus did not make that leap. That,
Well, you were
they
wearing a
open.
Juventus jersey as well
I
this
was
week.
wearing Juventus
He's a
shirts because I
flipper.
have a friend in Villa Abate. I'm not going to make his name. Actually, I can do that.
Manny.
It's Manny. And Manny's a big Juventus fan, and he was hoping for Juventus to reduce the distance, or actually grab
Hey,
them.
only Juventus was hoping in reducing the day. You were not.
No, I was not. So
He was wearing a Milan top,
Then-
and then underneath it was a Juventus shirt, and he was telling him in the clip, he was joking with his friend who's a Juventus fan, he was saying something burns on the inside while he had a
Keep
coat
your
on.
friends close and your enemies even closer.
And he was wearing Inter underpants also, underwear.
no, I don't. I
Hey,
don't
the
do
only
that.
one that wears the underwear of his team is Ludovico, as he showed us.
I might ever
on our
get that.
Instagram.
I might
Can't
ever
teach
get
old
that.
dogs new tricks. I've been around the
So,
block a few times, believe me.
Guys, it's been a crazy week. We're gonna leave the mic to the pro
host.
over here, to the host, and let's go.
First things first, we do not endorse knockoff jerseys. We'll just say that right now. This is a shirt that was given to you by a
beggar
friend.
cannot be choosers, okay? And
We're
a
going to buy you a
friend-
real one. If you want a
Alright.
Napoli shirt, I will buy you a Napoli shirt.
There you go.
Are you going to wear it?
I am.
You're going to take Napoli as your team?
As a team that I sympathize for, yes.
But he
Sympathizer.
wears anything. He'll wear anything.
Yeah.
I know, it's very
As
true.
I sympathize for Napoli because they are the owner of Bari, and then Bari is going to be leaping into Serie A, and De Laurentiis is going to make a decision whether to keep Napoli or Bari. So
Anto, we're
he's
gonna
have
give
to
you
keep one of them.
Meret in the back for the name.
Meret.
Hey, your boy Meret has been doing
He's
good.
doing spectacular.
I know.
Right now, I like him better than Donnarumma, believe it or not.
Whoa.
Well, that's not surprising.
Better than Donnarumma. My
That's 'cause he's not there
Butterfinger
anymore.
is much better than.
I think some people it takes time. But
It takes time,
eventually
yeah.
they change
Yeah.
their minds.
But Meret has proved me wrong. Meret is doing.
He's the only one who's ever proved you wrong.
I will actually put him on the same. I will put him in the
level?
goalkeeping on the Nazionale.
But he is
Right
part
now.
of the
yeah, no,
three
but
He's
I
a
want him to
starter.
be the
He's a
He's
starter.
part of
starter.
the
I want him to be
goalkeepers
the starter.
of the national.
Meret
team.
lately has really shine, and I think he deserves the starting position. On
So let's cut to the chase.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big
Ludo,
one.
we're happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Congratulations for
Always
the
a pleasure.
Scudetto, by
No.
the way.
If you say that to a Napoli fan,
I don't pronounce that word. I'm very.
I'll help you.
You guys know me.
I'll
I'm
help
very
you.
superstitious,
Wait.
so that word I do not pronounce.
Ludo,
You know
you're
what?
supposed to be confident. I mean, with
No,
a team
I-
like that, you
listen,
got to be confident.
Everyone is confident in their own ways. I take it one day at a
The
time,
time.
one game at a time. I don't look at anybody else. It's everything is on our shoulders. It's our future, and we just got to play game by game and maintaining the
Okay.
same.
let me ask you a
the
question,
same concentration.
Ludo. So the Serie A has been bringing their trophy, their Scudetto, all around. They were in Philly. They have it in New York. If you were there and you see the Scudetto, do you touch it?
No,
Why?
no, I would because it's too early. It's too it's too early. Why would I buy furniture before I even buy the house? I mean, I don't get it. Why do I go shopping for furniture? Put money down, choose the furniture.
Many
It's the
stupid
maestro.
people do that.
before I actually buy a house.
Maestro.
Many stupid people
Many
do
stupid
that.
people
Actually,
do
many
that.
stupid
I mean,
people they actually
you're
do
like that
that.
person,
No,
right?
no.
So one day
Why
at a
would
time.
I buy
You
furniture
still have
before I
60
buy the
games
house?
to go until math gives us the insurance that we cannot be other teams cannot win it. Then we celebrate, but one game at a time,
How
one
you gonna
week at a
celebrate,
time, one
Ludo?
step at a time.
How you gonna celebrate?
He's not going to answer that question, Anton.
No, how? I mean,
He's got nothing to celebrate.
all right. Let's assume that the Napoli already won. How are you gonna celebrate?
That I won't say.
You know what we need? We
We're
need
gonna
I'll
see
say.
on the news. Ludo's gonna be on the
Then
news.
if Napoli, let's put it
For
this
what?
way: if Napoli wins, how are you gonna
big.
celebrate?
I don't
Don't
know
fall
yet.
for his tricks.
I
Don't
don't
fall.
know yet. Wow.
Don't take the bait.
It's like meeting a girlfriend. Can you plan the honeymoon if you haven't asked her to marry you yet?
Yeah, again. This guy's unbelievable.
No, but you.
This guy's unbelievable.
You
We
can-
need Ludo-isms. All things Ludo
Why
says to
would you plan
describe.
ahead of
Ludo's
time
unbelievable.
before you
Ludo's
actually
unbelievable.
meet the girl,
Ludo's
ask her out, ask her to marry you, and then you plan for the honeymoon?
This is
But
incredible.
why would you? I don't.
Anto
One game
speechless.
at a time.
In Italy, actually, in Bari, before you buy a watermelon, actually, un'anguria.
You gotta
which is the
knock
one
on
that
it.
is red. No, you don't knock. They call it anguria watermelon approva. Approva means
In Naples
they
too,
open
right.
it for you. If you like it, you take it. If you don't, you leave it.
Well, they actually don't open the whole watermelon. They make a little
slit.
square,
Yeah, right on the top,
and then
and
with
then
the
they
with the
suck
knife,
it
it comes
out,
out
that's
just
it.
a little bit, and like there's a little hole.
Melone
And if it's red, you
approva.
buy it. Otherwise, you put it to the
That's
side.
it.
Okay, let's talk. I want to talk about this Napoli
Soccer,
side
okay.
because let's talk about the actual football on display, because Napoli was going through a moment where they started 2023. They had the loss to Inter. They bounced back in the match against Sampdoria. Lots of people had question marks saying, Napoli, what can they do in January? How do they bounce back? Can they maintain that form? Is Kvara getting found out? Is the solution just to kick the guy? And then they came out and shut up the team who was right behind them, who had an opportunity to again open up the race and to make things tight. And Napoli passed with the most flying colors I think you could possibly have in the world, because it was the perfect match for Napoli.
Correct. Well, yes. What scares me the most in the picture that you just painted, and I said it before, is the media. The media before the restart of the Serie A after the World Cup. Inter is coming back. Milan, Napoli, watch out. Milan is coming back. Oh, Juventus, 8 victories in a row. They're coming back. They did not concede a goal. Everyone. It's the media that creates this atmosphere.
Are you talking about us?
What?
Are you
No,
talking about us?
everyone. No, the entire.
Mike is laughing.
So us
the
too.
entire. Well,
see Mike's
IFTV
working.
also.
IFTV
can't stand
accept
those
me.
guys.
Accept me. I never said that. I never
the
said
national
that.
media, the
I
major
feel it.
newspapers, media outlets. But what scares me the most is the Neapolitan media. To me, they are the worst. Be careful what's happening in January. So yes, against Inter, it's okay. I mean, you're not gonna. I never said that Napoli was gonna win every game or finish the
undefeated.
season undefeated. No, against Inter, even though it is a very aggressive team, they're more physical than Napoli. Inter did deserve to lose. I
The
just
win,
think
you
that
mean.
the mistake that Spalletti made, he should have known who was in shape and who was not in shape for that particular game.
Meaning
There's
who?
a couple of players. Well, Rachmania would not have started because the World Cup, plus he was out for previous games before the start of the World Cup due to an injury. Crava, I would not have started. Anguissa, I would not have started.
And now you're talking about just the Inter match, not the Juventus,
the
just to be
Inter,
clear.
because these teams, the professional teams, whether you're in Serie A and Serie B, the coach does have a technical meeting with the coaching staff and the coaches before the game, and they get a report who has 60 minutes in their legs, who has 80 minutes, because they run these tests during the game. So he bet on certain players, Zielinski also against Inter, and the rhythm was not there. Now you have the whole week to prepare against Sampdoria. You have a whole week to prepare against Juventus, and that's when the rhythm picked up against Juventus, and it was the team that we saw prior to the World Cup, meaning with those high rhythms, one touches, positions, moving without the ball that we did not see against Inter.
So-
I think if you would have started a couple of other players, I think we could have came
So
out of
Inter-
San Siro with a point.
Ludo, the Inter's hiccup could have been avoided, you're saying?
Yes, I I think so.
With okay.
Yes.
But whatever.
I think with the with not starting a couple of players, making certain changes based on recommendations from the medical staff and the assistant coaches, I think Napoli could have got an extra point. I mean, 1 point at least against Inter. Remember, Inter is a very physical team.
Absolutely.
It is extremely, and the rhythms, they were very high. They wanted that game, and then we all saw what happened against Monza, and then we saw what happened,
Ludo,
afterwards.
I was gonna ask, what for that game in particular, what do you think went right for Napoli, and what do you think went wrong for Juve? Because Juve were on
the rhythm, the rhythm, high rhythms.
Is that
Napoli had the high rhythms, the pressure. They were moving the ball very fast. Players were making runs without the ball. They were getting in position to receive. It was like looking at the same Napoli that we admired before the start of the World Cup. The quick touches. Then he started the Crava, giving him, even though he did not play well against Sampdoria, against Inter, he gave him that opportunity to start to redeem himself. He had the balls to put Elmas the second half, while everyone expected Lozano to put Elmas on the right, and
For
the kid is in
Politano.
shape. I think he did deserve to start
He did
against
good.
Inter.
He did good.
Because he's in great he's in great shape right now. So there's a couple of things that he did fix along the way, Spalletti, but those were the main reasons, the high rhythms, and not
Marco,
allowing Juve.
Ludo, what I
to
read, I
play.
don't know if you saw the same game that I saw, it's that aside from the fact that Juventus didn't have anything, Napoli had not one extra gear, it had 3 extra gears in terms of speed. But even on the non-possession, the Napoli, the way that they were spread on the field, they were like boom, boom, boom. And Kvara was left not once, many times. In Italy we say colpevolmente non marcato. It was not marked.
Well,
it was not picked up.
He made Chiesa do overtime. That then
that
Allegri,
back
the
and
second half,
forth.
he moved McKennie on
How?
the right side. But
We'll
Chiesa
break
was
it
amazing.
down. Let's take
Break
both
it
sides
down.
because forget about the Juventus side right now. Let's focus on the Napoli, and then we could say where Allegri and Juventus got it wrong.
Right.
For the Napoli, what's so interesting to me, there's 2 pieces to the puzzle that I find fascinating, right? The first one you touched on, Elmas being put in. Spalletti built
In that position, on the right side.
But Spalletti has built a team that everyone feels important into the squad, which is something in football that when you create something like that, you get magic. You don't get that very often where there's 17 different goal scorers now with Rahmani. When he scored 17 different players, they all feel part of a project and they all feel like they're not in competition with each other. They're in competition with everyone else to make Napoli better. It seems very simple, but it's a complicated thing to manage in a locker room, which is credit to the coach and it's also credit to the players who go on. But the one thing that I found so fascinating, and I love this in football, I love the backstories, the clashes of philosophy. And there was a clash of philosophy on display with Juventus and Allegri, who like the cortomuso, who like the just winning. It's defend for our lives. And when I listened to Spalletti's press conference, and this is where I give Napoli credit because they didn't just win the match. They didn't just dominate the match. They won while playing a game that represents the city. And he spoke so much about we need to play beautiful football because people of Naples, they watch Maradona play. They still speak about Sarri's game. Even though he didn't win, they speak about Sarri because he influenced how we see the game. That Napoli was the exact epitome of what I would have said as an outsider. I'm not from Naples. You are. That's exactly what I would expect from a Napoli team. But they also showed not only can you play beautiful, but you can also win with that same philosophy.
I agree. But also remember, I agree with what you said about creating that philosophy due to the fact that the senators, they left. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Insigne
Mark.
gone.
The
Insigne.
senators, they left because by the senators leaving, Insigne, Mertens, Koulibaly, it gave much more responsibility
to the individuals.
to the other individuals that before, because of those 4 senators holding that umbrella, they felt not responsible and not important enough for the project.
But doesn't that seem like the opposite that would be true? Wouldn't you say, like prior in the summer where most people said Napoli need to finish in the top 4, that was the goal, right? Wouldn't you say if you're losing so many of your players that have been there for a long time, you would have the opposite effect?
No, I don't think so. Because now you have a play. You also have to think on the business side of it. And Napoli, I think, has done a great job in the programming, remaining competitiveness, and at the same time reducing their salaries by 50%.
Well, this is
remember Napoli
so
2
true.
years ago was a 155 million. Last year was 110. This year 68. It's 1/5 of the best teams in Europe. 1/5. I mean, a team is in first place, losing only one game with salaries 68 million. Arsenal has 95 million in salaries. Also, same project with Arsenal. Look where Arsenal was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and look at where they are today. So Napoli is the same thing, maintaining competitiveness, having a great deal of scouts. You have to trust your scouts that they have to pick the right players for your project. You got to find the future Crava. You got to find the future Rachmani, the future Di Lorenzo, the future
Koulibaly.
Oliveira, the future Kim. That's where you need to find, and you need to have a good eye and a good
Wait, hold on.
sense
I didn't
of,
understand. I didn't understand that. Though.
I was gonna add to that.
Go back to what you're saying, because again, in football we have this argument so many times. You sell off your big players. You sell off important players. They say that you have the opposite effect. So why are you saying that by Napoli selling off those 3 players, it actually helped the team?
It helped the team because I felt that group was created in the locker room. I always go back to what happened 3 years ago with Ancelotti, when the Senators, when the Mertens, the Insigne, the Allans, the Koulibaly, they went against Ancelotti. Something happened in the locker room where Allan smacked the vice president, De Laurentiis' son. And I think De Laurentiis wanted to get rid of those players because he felt that those players, by being there, they were holding back the rest of the players that he felt and the coach felt they had potential of maintaining certain responsibilities, that if those guys would have stayed there, they felt like they were put to the side. Like, yes, I am playing for Napoli, but I don't feel important. I don't feel wanted. I don't feel that. I know I could give more, but it feels like I'm being held back.
Ludo,
that's what I'm trying to say.
But you personally, because a lot of people in the beginning of the season, including me myself, I put Napoli outside of the top 4 solely because the Senators leaving. Did you personally think that they would be in the position they are now if you look back at it before
or not even just the position that they are? Would you even think that they'd be in that top 4 securely? Like, that's not a question.
I felt the top 4 because the way Napoli left off, yes, being competitive and also following De Laurentiis' way of competing, his business project, I said, okay, you have Insigne here, who these guys in certain games, important games, these Senators, according to my opinion, they have failed. The Mertens, the Insigne, the important games, and a couple of others that Napoli needed to win,
they didn't pop up.
They did not show up.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
That's what I felt. I said, now it's time. And and De Laurentiis also said that, okay, I have to give this guy so much money, Insigne, at his age. Meanwhile, I could get someone young.
The Insigne one made a lot. I think the Insigne one for everyone.
But even Mertens.
The Koulibaly,
You
was a
can
tough
invest that
Koulibaly.
money with Mertens. Koulibaly had one more year. After 7 years, I thought you have to let these players, you have to be able, you get used to it. He wanted to leave. He was looking for something new. With the age, he was already there. You have the opportunity of getting 40 million.
You know what's interesting
take
about that? I spoke to Fabrizio Romano, and he was saying that, and this goes to a point that I will touch on, and then we can move on. But he was saying how Kim, the replacement for Koulibaly, that you don't always have in your mind that a lot of times on the transfer market, right? You have a list of players. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4 that you're like, all right, if we don't get one, we could get 2. Napoli was so set on Kim because they really believed in him that they did everything possible to make sure that they could get him. And he was explaining to me how today in modern football, you don't really get that. You don't really get teams that are so attached to a player, they believe in a player this much, that they're willing to go overboard to be able to try and grab them.
Like we did with Raspadori, like we did with Crava back in January.
To wait and to plan
February,
ahead.
whenever he was purchased. I think it was way before the season ended that Crava was
and that goes to my last thing about Napoli is Giuntoli is another piece of this puzzle. That
Giuntoli.
Is it Giuntoli or Giuntoli?
No, Giuntoli.
Giuntoli. I think it was Giuntoli.
No, Giuntoli.
That's why you need the accent, like in the Greek alphabet.
So Giuntoli, I think, or Giuntoli, however you want to say it, I think that he's a piece to the puzzle that no one also speaks about. He's behind the scenes. I also think because De Laurentiis is such a big character that it is hard for others from the management to pop up and to really speak about them. But the way that he's identified players, the way that he's cut the cost, the way that he's found, not just based off names, but by performances, is something spectacular. And when you see so many teams out there that just throw money, and I'll use this example, I'm not saying that it's a perfect example. There's a lot more that goes into it, but Chelsea, who we see spends $400 or $500 million in this past year since they got their new ownership. And yes, it'll take time. They need to mesh and they need to get all these pieces together. But when I watch that idea of football, and then I watch Napoli's idea where they're able to find these players based off of ideas and not just spending $100 million on these sorts of players, I don't know. It's interesting, and I think it's not spoken about enough.
Depends, Mark, it all depends who you are and where you are. You have Napoli, and then you have the teams from the north that are able to bring in a certain amount of money, of income on a yearly basis, where Napoli does not. I mean, Napoli, at the end of every year, you have about 180, 200 million in revenue every year compared to Juventus, which is double than that. So if you bring in double than that, you can afford certain salaries, you can afford certain players. When you bring in 180, 200 million,
you
tops,
have to be smart.
You have to be smart,
More
and you
pragmatic.
have to invent smart, and you
But
cannot.
that's not easy. There's so many teams that don't do that.
And spend $1.20. It's not allowed.
Let
You
me-
can't
but
So
do that.
what do you think about Giuntoli? Because you didn't hit on him. Do you think he's important, or?
I think Giuntoli is very important. I think Giuntoli is the man, but I still think that De Laurentiis runs everything.
Sure.
And that's what sometimes, if Napoli wants to become a worldwide brand, it has to be De Laurentiis that has to hire a certain people and not be a family-oriented club where he runs the show 100%. So this is why you can never get the Ronaldos in Napoli, because you don't have the strength, the possibility to become a worldwide brand and become at certain levels.
Yeah, let me just say, for the viewers' sakes, okay, whoever's going to be listening to the podcast, repeat what already Ludo explained magistralmente. I mean, it's like very nicely. What you were asking before to Ludo, it's about the leadership of Napoli, okay? With the departure of Insigne, Mertens and Koulibaly, the umbrella that Ludo was talking about it, every time that Napoli won, the praises were mostly for Insigne, Mertens, a couple other people, the people that they were the senators over there. Every time that something went wrong, they got to blame those guys. So once those guys that disappeared, who's the leader? That technically there is no leader. So everybody becomes the important puzzle of not every little corner. It's no longer marginal to the project. It's very important.
Everybody has to be on board.
They have
also
to be on board
on
So,
the project.
In a way, to a certain degree, Napoli embraced the AC Milan scheme of looking at the soccer on the same way. Although AC Milan still have a couple senators like Ibrahimovic in another field and Maldini in another field.
Okay.
So, but in a way, what they did, their project was to get younger, to shop in a less expensive market, and to just get the team responsible. So they got the right player for the right position. God bless. Let them go. Those Insigne. By the way, what did Insigne do? Nothing in Toronto, right? So
remember, it's
All right, come on.
Antonio,
To De Laurentiis.
it goes for all the teams. It's the players that ultimately they want to come to the club, and then you have to explain to them what their role is going to be. If they accept, then you have a united locker room. If they don't accept, that's when you start.
one
that's
thing
when the
that I
problem
remember
starts.
really, I'm gonna end with this. When Laurentiis,
We need a shot collar
listen
on
to
this
me.
guy.
When Laurentiis one time before, when they had the maestro as a coach, they were discussing whether it's gonna stay on or whether it's not gonna stay on. They had the meeting, they had the dinner, the lunch, and all the stuff. All of a sudden, De Laurentiis decided this guy here is too much. Okay, he let him go. So De Laurentiis is the one that runs the team, nobody else. And that's what I praised him for that. I said, let those people that they want to bargain. I said, I'm paying your salary. You do what I'm telling you to do. And when Ancelotti was there to finish up, when De Laurentiis called per la squadra per andare in ritiro, meaning, hey, we needed to just adjust the situation over here because the Senators, they decided, that we shouldn't go in retiro, and Ancelotti was part of the,
Ancelotti wanted to change also some positions, and the players were not in favor of that.
De Laurentiis said, no way, this is what we're doing. And that's why De Laurentiis, to me, is one of the best manager and owner of all the Serie A.
Okay, 25 minutes of Napoli. Let's give everyone else a fair shot because we're trying to keep this at an hour. Otherwise, Antonio is going to go back in the years of finding more examples. The other team that was there was Juventus, and you touched on it a little bit with the way that Kvara found the space. What's so interesting, obviously there was mind games that were being played in the press conferences prior, and then Allegri came out with a formation that no one had predicted, which was Chiesa as the right wing back. We know that Juventus play 3 in the back, which means they end up defending with 5, the one on the right and the one on the left being Kostic and Chiesa in this case. Become right wing back and left wing backs. They become defenders in essence. We were expected maybe McKennie was going to play that role. He didn't do that. And Chiesa lost his marker countless of times. You see it on the goal with Kvara. And it does open some debate, and I think we could debate on who's at fault on that. Is that Chiesa or is that Allegri for putting him in that position? That was one of the mistakes that Juventus made. More so just... No, but I'm saying tactically from Allegri's point of view, just the way that the team is constantly set up to sit deep and just rely on individual quality, where we saw that from Di Maria, who scored a goal, very individual. The only opportunities that Juventus had to score in this match were a mistake where Rachmani passed Di Maria a ball, he hit the crossbar, that was nearly a goal, or mistakes in the back line and individual quality, or set pieces and corner kicks that could come in. That's the only real chance because Juventus don't have a game plan now.
But that's what's been happening also the past 8 games.
100%.
With 1-0 victories.
And I've seen 2 different things with that, right? I see people say that it's lucky that they won those 8 games, which I disagree with. It's not luck. I think that they're playing against completely different teams than the one that Napoli played against.
They play filthy soccer, that's it.
That's fine, but it wasn't lucky that they won that game.
No, it's pragmatic.
They defended with everyone, and they won based on their quality, even late into a match.
Individual qualities, like you said.
But as we pointed out, and we said it here, for me, when Juventus don't score first, when they concede first, that is where they're vulnerable, and they can't get back into matches because their whole game plan is compress. And a lot of their goals have come into the second half because they have that quality to put in. The game plan was wrong from Allegri from the start, but then even after that, when Napoli plays as good as they do, I don't care what players, what formation, what style, there's
which
no
team
way.
takes the field, which opponent takes the field.
There was no way that they would have competed with this Napoli. And I'll open it to you. For me, I'll say first, for me, Chiesa is not at fault for that because his position is not as a right wing back. His position is a right winger in a 4-3-3 where like Kvara plays, where he's got that freedom to attack. Now, if you play in that position and you're supposed to defend, okay, that's one thing. But for me, it comes down to the coach to put you in a position to succeed.
Well, it's not like his first... I don't want to blame on Chiesa, but it's not like his first time he played wing back.
He hasn't played there since he was a teenager.
Yeah, Fiorentina.
But he wasn't good there.
I don't want to take all the blame. He was still a player, still on the field. But I think it was more than that, too. I think Juve... on the most part, once they conceded, they just looked all over the place, discombobulated. They couldn't string passes together. They were making mistakes left and right, like I was saying, for Bremer. And the only way we can score, like you said, Marco, was the mistakes. It was like a clown goal the way it went through Rachmani's leg. It was a mistake there. It went through someone, and then they ended up scoring. But I was so shocked by Juve because I think this was, if they played again, I still think Napoli would win, but I don't think in that manner. Only because Juve are very... defense oriented, that they wouldn't allow that many goals to be breached. I think it was a game in a row that they didn't concede a goal.
They only conceded 7 goals and they conceded 5
with each one game. So
they
made up all the stuff that they did not concede with interest, technically, right?
I mean, at a certain point, you could say
yeah, but
like
Mike,
that.
I think Napoli playing that way, like the way that they find spaces, they're able to find those spaces within the gaps.
But you think that can happen again if they played again?
I think when Napoli plays like that, it's impossible to stop them.
I'm not saying not only to win. I think Napoli would have, but I don't think in that manner.
But Marco,
Juve would just look like a completely
the beautiful
different
thing about
team.
football is that you got one one shot. If you're not ready,
for
Bremer,
sure.
you play great 8 games in a row.
It's
I get
true.
it. Bremer had an amazing run before that, but you play bad. Alexandro, bad. You have to win on the night, and that was the moment for Juventus. So the games going in are great. You won all those matches, right? But if you really want to compete for the Scudetto, that was the night that you had to come out and at least get a point in Naples.
Bring the gap
So
closer.
if you don't
Try
perform
to-
on that night, the rest, not saying it doesn't matter because they want top 4, but it doesn't matter in the race for the Scudetto.
Watch the goal of Kvara. If you just run back the tape, watch the goal of Kvara. I don't fault Chiesa for the goal itself.
Who do you fault?
100%. It's 3 people on Osimhen. 3 people almost on Osimhen. Every Osimhen attract at least.
Because he's that good.
No, but Chiesa doesn't follow the runner. If you watch McKennie, because McKennie was marking him
There's
at
no
one
man
point,
marking, yeah,
but
there's
then
no man
McKennie
marking.
passes him off to Chiesa, and Chiesa's not near
But
him.
Marco, look at that. Where 3 defenders were. That was Bremer. That was what's his name, Alexandro.
Danilo.
That was Danilo. There were almost the 3 of them on the box. I mean, technically surrounding Osimhen, and then all of a sudden the ball goes to Kvara, and Kvara had all the time to just look at the corner and just bury that easily. Just for him, it was like a kid game to bury that shot over there.
Training.
So the fact that you're saying that Juventus played the 3-5-2 and defensively becomes a 5-3-2. That doesn't mean anything because at any time, Juventus always has 4 defenders minimum. The fact that is when they doubled up on one players that you created that inferiority
You leave
that
space.
puts the opponent into that particular shooting mode because it's impossible for you not to find the open guy in a situation like that, and that's why Kvara just he buried the shot. That's it. And same way Rachmani. Look, Rachmani again. It was somebody that is not really a striker, but he found a beautiful shot
It was on a
coming from
corner
the
kick,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, boom.
I have a little bit different of opinion. Going back to Chiesa, I will not blame Chiesa on anything. Chiesa is coming back from a long injury.
Yeah, it's true.
Spring is coming up. You still have 16 more games to play. And the players that have been out, I don't care which team you play for, but we're talking about Chiesa. Let's continue to talk about Chiesa. If you're out for a long time, in order for you to get back and get the minutes that you need in order to be back 100%, you need to play. You cannot blame a player or have a player that's been out for 8-9 months and then he plays a game, boom, and he's going to be, have the 90 minutes in his legs and do everything that he used to do prior to the injury. So the coach is correct to give minutes to these guys a little bit at a time in order for them to be ready for the remaining 15 games of the season. I will not speak so much about Juventus against Napoli. Like Marco said before, if Napoli plays as a unit and everyone plays together and the way they know how to play, not because I'm a Napoli fan, I don't care who takes the field, Napoli will win.
I agree with
win.
that.
Have a
In
better,
Europe, across Europe.
has a great chance of beating anyone on the field.
Yeah, chance for
Juventus
sure.
problems are not against Napoli. Juventus problems started in the summer. When the season started with the injuries, you had certain players, you had the World Cup, then things that are happening behind the curtain with the club and Daniele and the board of directors of the, resigning and all this that's going on. So right now, Juventus is mentally, they're in no man's land because you have to take this into consideration when the club above, these things are happening, reading on the media and, this what's happening, resignations and this and that, players that have been injured. Now you're winning 8 games, then you lose 1. So Juventus, they don't know what's going to happen. There's going to be a trial. They're going to get penalized a couple of points. They're going to go, nobody knows what's going to happen. All this, it has an effect on the team.
For sure.
And you get a guy like Allegri, or it could be any other coach, that's trying to grab everything from the left and the right and trying to make
the most out
trying
of
to
it.
put something in a dish and trying to make the most out of it. Listen, we win 1-0, 0.5, 1 goal, it doesn't matter. We need to get the top 4 and have 3-4 point security that just in case they do take a couple of points away from us, we'll still be in Champions League and get those 35-40 million, and we look ahead to the following
season,
to the fall. So Juventus problems, it's not only about Napoli, it's the overall pictures,
Behind
the
doors.
injuries, the players, Vlahovic is out, other players are out. It's not easy for a coach to now you have to get this guy, put him in, and hopefully you got to get a couple of young guys. Hopefully they pay dividends right away. Not everyone is as lucky as Napoli that has a bench that you buy players and they pay dividends immediately. Simeone against Liverpool, Raspadori paying dividends. Elmas, yes,
but that comes down to good planning as well, though.
I beg you to disagree, Ludo, but this is what I see.
I know, but it's planning,
that comes
Marco.
down to
But
good
let's say,
planning as well.
when you start a season, let's say, God forbid, Napoli, let's knock on wood, you start a season and you have a few injuries and the people from the bench don't pay dividends right away, you have Napoli in the same situation.
Okay, but
you could have Napoli in the same situation.
The one thing is, okay, yes, that did happen, and that happened for Juventus, but you find this winning streak that we're just talking about, the 8 games, and I agree, it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things because Napoli's a better team and Napoli would have won the game. But Fagioli, for example, he's consistently playing, and then in a big match against Napoli, why don't you play him?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Why
He's
don't you
scared.
play?
I like he's scared.
But I get that, right? I understand the logic from that, but my thing is like Juventus, you're not gonna be based on playing good, right? This season, we know that. We've said it many times. I've said I don't like it. But at least, and you're going to lose to Napoli, but at least lose trying to play. That's my only thing is like, I don't understand that part of the puzzle. You've won 8 games in a row. I get Napoli's a different beast, but for a young kid like Fagioli, at least that's one of the good things that we're like, all right, he's playing in a top match. Even if he fails, but he had been doing
He gains
so good.
experience.
He's doing so good up to that point. I would rather lose in that sense,
But even
to
the
let
other
him
play,
play.
what was the other play?
Miretti.
Yeah.
That's my one thing about that. You lose. Napoli is better than Juventus. When they play, I agree with you. They could beat any team. That's fine. But my thing is like you there's a way to lose as well. And they didn't lose in the right way. There's never a right way to lose. But maybe I'm not explaining myself the correct
They were
way.
humiliated.
You're saying you'd rather lose with youngsters than lose with
Or not just
But we don't
youngsters.
know also, guys. We don't
No,
know what
but-
happened during the week. Maybe Fagioli was not in shape. Maybe something happened during
Man,
practice.
but I think
Maybe
Allegri
we
wants to
don't
play
know.
so-
We don't
Ludo.
get
I feel
like Allegri's the kind of coach that
those
wants to play
medical
safe.
reports
I
during the
beg to
week.
disagree with both of you. I'll tell you the reasons why. Someone, I'm not sure if it was Grella or if it was Matteo Bonetti, they said on the last show that they had, they said, I like to see another coach, maybe Spalletti coaching Juventus, to find out whether the results will have been a different results. For me, personally, Juventus has got nothing less than Napoli, player to player. The quality of Juventus player, it's one of the best. Still right now in Serie A. Now you come in and telling me that Napoli is much better than Juventus. I think it's the way of the game is being played by
coaching?
Napoli.
It's
that is
as a
much
team,
better.
though. It's like
As a team.
It's a unit.
You know what? You know what it is?
Juventus-
Everyone needs to balance each other out. There's not balance in the 11 of Juventus. Napoli, it's built. If you take individually, and this is not to discredit the quality
I
of
agree
Napoli,
with you.
but
I
if you
do.
take them individually and you put them on other teams, they're not going to be the same.
Yeah.
The reason why that midfield is so great is because Anguissa and Zielinski and
Yeah.
Lobotka
They're
understand their
synchronized.
strengths and their weaknesses.
Okay, but player to player, don't say that Napoli is way better than Juventus or Milan or Inter. Player to player, Juventus has got spectacular player or top of the line players. And Miretti and Fagioli, that could have been part of the equation because they were found to be excellent addition to the bench, which they didn't have it. So the fact that you don't have a Vlahovic or you don't have
was
Dele
Pogba.
and all of those people that
But
are gone
Anto,
already.
Napoli have a better coach though at the end of the day.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say to you. I said, switch the coach and let me see if the game will have been played the same way.
No,
I think
it wouldn't.
the most of the blame is on Allegri. Allegri is the main culprit for Juventus to play that way. Allegri è un difensivista.
But, Anto,
you just
but if-
wait, you make the
But
line.
if you bring,
But have the
like
results.
you said, Spalletti to Juventus and Allegri to Napoli, Napoli will play the way it has been playing right now because quality-wise, feet-wise, and the way they move as a unit is different than Juventus. Juventus cannot play that one touch the way that Napoli plays, that quickness and moving the ball like Manchester City does, to move the ball and off the ball and move as a unit.
Are you trying to say that Juventus physically they're challenged?
No,
they're not.
I'm trying to say that the quality of that Juventus, not the players. Remember, you got players, but they're not. I'm talking about the quality of the feet. technically, those players,
They're adapted to a different style.
Yeah, they adapt to a different style of play. So just because Spalletti is in Napoli and he goes to Juventus, that doesn't mean Juventus will play the way Napoli plays, by those quick touches
That
in
takes
tight
time.
spaces.
That takes a lot of time.
It takes that, but it also takes the right players.
But
You gotta find the right players for that particular team.
Spalletti, excuse me, Allegri will make Napoli lose because he will make the Napoli that you have right now on the field play the same style of soccer that he plays with Juventus.
Because
Wait
you have
and
those
see.
players to play that way.
There
You have those
But Allegri
players.
doesn't play that style, though.
I disagree. I think Juventus has got the player, not with the one-touch player. He's
Not
got
the
the
same
player
style
to
as
beat
Napoli
Napoli.
plays.
They got the player to beat Napoli. It's the style of the play of the game that it's
All right.
horrible.
Let's move on. Another
Wow, that was
team.
a big- that was-
If this was a great week for Napoli, it was even better because of the struggles that Milan have had as well. I mean, the gap will keep widening. We made a joke that maybe this was the first time that you had Milan and Inter fans supporting Juventus in a game against Napoli, because it's the only time that they wanted points to be taken away. But Milan, you tied against Lecce, and if you dig deeper into the week that you had this game against Roma where you're up 2-0. Roma's not in the match at all. They come back 2-2. Then you play a Coppa Italia match against Torino, where Torino had already beaten you the first time in the league, and they knock you out of the Coppa Italia. Obviously, different players, not the starting 11.
Being down one man too.
Yeah, being down a man, good call. And then you have this game against Lecce where you're down 2-0 to Lecce, and you end up making it a tie 2-2, which it seems great because at least you didn't lose. But in the grand scheme of things, you expect
dropping
points against Lecce. One thing real quick just to say, Lecce, anyone who reads the name Lecce, you think that, okay, give it the 3 points to Milan right away.
You should be
but
scared.
if you watch Lecce play, or you looked into it at all, every single top team that they've played, they fought against. They beat Atalanta. They beat Lazio. Inter, it took them into the final minutes.
tied
I think
Napoli.
you were there.
I was there.
They
They
tied
tied
Napoli.
Yeah.
They lost to Roma and Juventus by 1 point. The guys are fighters, and they have quality at home, especially because their fans are some of the best.
I like Baroni as a coach.
They have a quality coach. So just to say, like, I know we're talking about this being a bad week for Milan, but let's not make a mistake. Everyone has struggled when playing against Lecce this season. Either way, Antonio, peel this onion back of what's happening right now in Milan.
All right. First of all, to me, AC Milan is going through problems that Maldini could have fixed them. In other words, the contract that they're not signed, this Leao. Leao is the biggest disappointment for me. I'll tell you why. We're not complaining about who do we have on the goalkeeper, on the net, Tata Rusciano instead of Magnan, the fact that the injuries, everybody's got injuries. No, there's no excuses for that. AC Milan has got a squad that they do not play with the passion that is supposed to be displayed. Leao, to me, is a great player. I love him to death. But if you see his attitude, okay, you compare his speed. His speed is one of the top into the world, not just in Europe and in Serie A. But if you look his attitude, he looks like the Pink Panther. Na 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 na.
I don't
If you
get
look
it.
at him,
I don't get it at all.
He looks like someone that is not really interested. You don't see the blood on his eyes. It's like have you seen the cartoon The Pink Panther?
No.
You've never seen a Pink Panther cartoon? Oh my God, you don't know what you're missing. Leao is got an
You
attitude.
mean he's just punching the card?
Yes.
I don't think so.
So one question for that though,
Yeah.
because we spoke. How many times did we say last year that Milan won based off their team spirit, that they were a real team?
Yeah.
So you can't put all the blame on Leao.
No, but it's one of them.
Okay,
I think
so
it's
what
one.
else?
And it's the most important. You guys put him as the MVP. I did not. For me, the MVP of AC Milan was and is still Magnan, the goalkeeper.
Okay, so speak about why Milan struggles do not come down to Rafael Leao.
Part of it, yeah.
Yes,
part of
but
it.
what
What's the
is the
main
problem?
thing? What's
Because
the
they
main
didn't win
thing?
the league just thanks to Leao. They won the league thanks to the entire team playing as a unit.
There were defensive mistake made it. Okay, unfortunately, Theo Hernandez wound up chesting the ball inside of the net. We have Tata Rusciano that is not the goalkeeper that you are expected to safeguard the net of AC Milan. And those things, they compound when you're not playing with the confidence that you used to play, and when you're supposed to be winning. When AC Milan is supposed to be winning against small team, they just go bananas. They just lose their cools. So sure enough, after the 1-0, which was a mistake that ci può anche stare with in Italy. And then it comes the second goal from the other guy over there, which I never heard about the name of that player from Lecce.
Baschirotto. No, Baschirotto is a beast.
Hey.
He's a farmer.
He's a farmer.
He's an actual
farmer. He used to move pigs with his dad.
To me, Lecce.
And now he's getting points against Milan.
Yeah, to me, Lecce deserves to win.
Put some respect on Baschirotto's name.
Me and Mike, we were watching the game, and I told Mike before the game, Mike, what did I tell you?
You said we'd be lucky to get a point.
You say that every time.
No, I meant it. I meant it this time. AC Milan.
He's right though for this game.
AC Milan is mentally lost. They do not play with the confidence that they had.
That's what I'm asking. Like, who does that come down to? What my point before was, that's not just layout. Like, surely between Pioli and the rest of the team on the squad, there's not that same winning spirit as it was last year. So what does that come down to?
It comes down to the players that we don't have right now available to ourselves. Okay, Giroud has been overused. Okay, Giroud has played until the last minute of the World Cup. All right, Theo Hernandez, the same thing. We have Benacer and Tonali that from time to time they have to miss a game because one is injured, the other one is disqualified. I like very much what's his name, the Croatian guy that is not playing right now. Yeah,
Rebic. He'll be back on Wednesday.
He'll be back, but we miss him.
You're missing a lot of injuries.
We miss him. We have 4 or 5 key players that are not part of the squad anymore, and that is affecting the overall production of the team. AC Milan, in terms of intensity, is lacking from the 3-quarter to the scoring line. Leao is culprit so many times. The goal that he scored, Leao, it was a mistake. More of the goalkeeper than skill. That is skill. Believe me. You take the goal, you take a shot like that on the first post, he should have been covered. The goalkeeper should have made that save. So Leao, for me, if you look at the quantity and the production on the field, he made a couple runs. Other than that, he didn't do anything.
But I think you need to.
He's been caught up with these rumors with the contract that was supposed to be signed before the World Cup. The World Cup is over, and now there is still this rumor. The guys are not the contract. It is. Watch.
I don't think if the player wants to stay.
I think that Antonio. I know Antonio always. He doesn't like just like a superstar player. He thinks that they always need to perform, and that's where you're using Leao as the person that you're talking about.
Yes.
But you can't just put the blame on him.
No, but it's one of them.
It's clear that the rest of Milan, there's some sort of issue. Purely mistakes, I think, in managing games. You built your legacy last year on not conceding goals, right? You were so good at defending. Yeah. Now I think you conceded 22 or 24 goals. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not the same Milan.
It is tough when you have someone like Magnan who orchestrated the back line, and now you have someone like Tato Rusano that you're scared if he's going to catch an aerial ball and not slip in. I think that's a main one. And Kalulu and Tomori, you can see they're not as confident as last season. Not just them, but just in general, everything aligned perfectly for Milan last season. They look like they're a whole team. Everyone was happy. Everything was clicking. Everyone was on the same pace. Just like Napoli this season, to be honest.
We're not scoring.
I agree with that.
Mike, I think we have to wait 48 hours in order to take Milan's temperature.
Okay.
On Wednesday against Inter, the first trophy of the season is on the line, and we will see what kind of Milan will come out on Wednesday. What kind of team will play on Wednesday? Regarding to Lecce, you got to take into consideration a lot of factors. Inter, yes, should have won against Torino in Coppa Italia. It's one of those games that at the end, it happened also, Milan against Torino. It happened also against Napoli against Fiorentina, Coppa Italia last year, with the last 10 minutes, Fiorentina, 2 breakaways, they eliminated Napoli. So those games can happen. Now, you go against, this is Thursday, I believe, or Wednesday. Wednesday against
Inter.
Wednesday against Torino. You lose in overtime, you play 120 minutes. Now, on Friday, you have the Napoli-Juventus game. Milan thinking, okay, let's hope Juventus, like Marco said, Napoli drops a couple of points. Now we'll come out differently against Lecce. Now on Saturday, you play against Lecce. Napoli beats Juventus. Lecce is a type of team that at the beginning, they come out 120 miles an hour.
Literally.
You're down 2-0 after 20 minutes. Now your head is, okay, now I need to tie this game or possibly win. But my mind is also on Riyadh on Wednesday on the first trophy of the season. So there's a lot of factors that go into players' mind. You have injuries. You have certain players that do not have the strength. They're not in shape.
You want to catch
so
up to
now
Napoli?
How do you balance all that? So it all started against Torino. Then it went to Napoli, Juventus, hoping Napoli would drop a couple of points, and then Milan would. Then against Lecce, a team that plays really well, give 150%. They run like maniacs. You're down 2-0, and then okay, I lost this game. Maybe I'm going to tie it, but I got to think about the first trophy of the game. So I think a real exam of of Milan, where Milan is going for the remaining of the season, and to take Milan's temperature and where they're going to finish and what's going to be their potential for the remaining of the season, I think we'll see it on Wednesday.
I think it's also a massive match for Milan. I totally agree in that aspect about how many different things. And I know we love to quantify. This is just us as football fans, right? We're emotional. We get excited. We want to just make it simple. Oh, they're not good anymore, or they just messed up here. But there's so many different factors to peel back on what actually goes into it. It's also a huge game for Inter as well, because the way that I see it, right? Of course, Napoli didn't win anything yet, but for Inter and for Milan especially being out of the Coppa Italia, both of them risked not getting a trophy this season, both Inter and Milan. And the Supercoppa, for me, even the Coppa Italia, they're used as consolation trophies for teams like Inter, for Milan, where it's a little bit of a brag. It's like, oh, look, I won a trophy, but it's not the Scudetto. It's not that same feeling.
Those clubs
it
expect
doesn't have
more.
the weight.
The fans
Exactly.
expect more, and the club expects more.
But winning a trophy, especially mid-season, can give you a nice little push for the rest of the year. So I think both Inter, who also are going through a moment, I know that they won this weekend, but they have so many ups and downs in their schedule that it's a big moment for both of them, where it gives a little bit more significance to the trophy than I would have taken before. And just to move on, because we'll talk about Inter, but I loved Mike's 2 points about Maignan, right? I think Maignan, I don't want to say that. I don't think Tato Rusano sucks. I don't think he's a terrible keeper. I think that he's a backup keeper, right? He is what he is. Maybe he didn't make mistakes on those moments, but the way that I see it, Maignan earns you so many points throughout a season. It's more about Maignan being exceptional. Maignan is above and beyond the best goalkeeper that makes saves that don't even make sense sometimes for goalkeepers to make sense. That factor plays into a part. So I don't want to discount Tato Rusano so much. I just think that Maignan is so much better that he gives you points that you wouldn't expect to have. And then the last part, which now I'm forgetting the point that you made about Milan.
The Tomori and the defense, Kalulu and Tomori.
No, sorry. You said that everything worked out, kind of like Napoli. I agree with that.
I
think last year, there are moments in football. There are moments when things feel right, where no matter what, there's something that clicks. It's within the club. It's within the atmosphere. I'm not saying that Milan lost that, but they don't seem to have that same competitive squad feeling that
Marco,
I felt
but
last year.
I also think the longer bench and the bench that pays more dividends is the team that has the possibility of having better success.
But they had this. They have the same team as last year. They have De Catalare who came in. They added players like who did Milan didn't.
Vranks. We have Vranks.
Well, you lost Kessie. Kessie is the
Kessie
one.
was
but,
a big one.
But so besides that, it's the same Milan that won the Scudetto last year.
But Zlatan didn't come off the bench.
Zlatan. Okay.
That was a bit.
You're having.
Missing.
I know we don't like to use injuries as an excuse. You said we don't care about injuries. Everyone's got
don't.
injuries, but the injuries play a factor. Like you need a moment in time to go well. Last year, it worked out for Milan. They kept finding their moment.
Right.
This year,
when certain players are not in shape and you sub with others, and they got to pay
But
dividends.
Pioli made several mistakes.
But they
in
all
the
do.
subs.
They all-
But
they
some
all
of those
do.
mistakes, you're not supposed to be making this kind
He
of
has
mistakes.
He has not read games as well as he did last year, Pioli as well. I agree with that. That's why I'm saying it's not just layout. You see how many different factors that we're adding to this Milan. Pioli, like the subs he puts in for me, unbalance the team. I can't get over the Roma game because a team that won the Scudetto, you're the reigning champions in the league. I mean, it's so obvious that the only way that Roma score a goal is set pieces. Don't foul the guy. You can't make the foul. You need to see out that match. For me, that was a very disappointing moment because I said that Milan, they would have had the spirit and the understanding of the match and of their opponent in not giving them even the possibility, even the sniff to get back into the match. It happens. It happened. It's past. But like Ludo says, it's leading up to this moment where, let's talk about Inter. They're having also a moment where, yes, they won this weekend and it feels really good, but they played against a different team. And Inter's had so many of these highs and lows that they are so hard to gauge which Inter side we're gonna get.
I want to talk about some. I want to bring Gaetano into this a little bit, and I want to talk about Inzaghi, and I want to hear Ludo's thoughts about Inzaghi.
Why is my dad not here, by the way?
Because he's actually
He's
a
a
campione.
champion. He's a campione.
He's
He won
a future.
another thing. We were talking about
He won the
trophy.
Berlusconi Cup.
Yeah, no, we were talking about trophy. The guy won another trophy. The over 75?
65.
Oh,
Be nice. Be nice.
Sorry. All right.
How come you don't go
Oh,
play with
yeah,
him in
the
Florida?
memorial,
The memorial, the
right,
pine loan,
tournament
was
in
the
Florida,
thing was
right.
that the pine
It's
loan
over
against
60.
pine loan against what?
Greenwood.
Greenwood.
If you guys don't understand the joke, he's talking about two cemeteries.
How come you didn't go play with them, Anto? They didn't pick you on their team?
I'm too young.
The over 85s didn't pick
I
you?
am too young.
Enough of these jokes, Aldo. Okay.
Alright.
You're too young for the team.
Hell yeah, I'm
my dad told me that there was tryouts.
No,
and that
he's
you couldn't.
60. He's 60 already.
Not even.
It's over 65.
What,
You're
60?
62.
What are you talking about?
I think you're 62.
Oh, you're 60.
How old are you?
52.
Yeah, no, 45.
Yeah, right.
Like a Giroud.
So I want to say congratulations to Gaetano, by the way, by winning. Florida looks beautiful, nice, short sleeve, everything. But when Inzaghi signed for Inter, he said he wasn't a fan of Inzaghi, of how he played all this stuff. And we're like, come on, Gaetano, what are you saying? He was like, he's a good coach. He won a lot with Lazio, considering the players that they had, the budget and all that stuff. And ever since last season, they didn't win the Scudetto, drop points, a lot of it being due to Inzaghi making mistakes, taking out subs early, formations, tactic schemes, whatever you want to say. This season, very similar to that. And yes, I understand Lukaku hasn't been in form, injured, just like everyone else, but you can't make excuses. Ludo, I want to ask you, what do you think of Inzaghi playing for Inter as a coach in general, and how he's doing at Inter recently? Do you like him? Is he a top coach? Why aren't they Inter playing well these past two seasons? What do you think?
I do like Inzaghi. I like the type of ball that he's playing compared to Conte, where everybody was playing back, and then the counter attack and Lukaku running the way Osimhen runs this year, and basically beating the defender, physically, strong guy holding the ball, waiting until the team comes up. I like the possession, but it's also, I think, a lot with Inter has to do that it's a team that's inconsistent. He's not able, if I have to blame Inzaghi on something, he's not able to give that same dimension, that mental dimension, week in and week out,
like
with
Conte.
Inter. Like Conte, and like Marco said, you don't know which Inter is going to come out. Against Napoli, they played an outstanding game. They gave 110%. You could see the fire coming out of their eyes, winning every ball, fighting for every ball. And at the end of the game, the way they celebrated, it looked like they won the Scudetto. I'm not saying they did not deserve to win. They did deserve to win. But I feel that every week you cannot give that same mentality. It's not that same approach to the game every
That's
season.
Inzaghi's fault, though. The coach instills that to the
Inzaghi's
team.
fault, but it's also part of the things that are also not going well within the clubs. We always go back to what happens if the club is healthy. And right now, financially, the club is not healthy. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes about salaries, who's getting paid, if they're getting paid. The Zank family that has no money, lost a lot of sponsors. They have basically nothing in the bank, quote unquote. All these factors are to be taken into consideration for a successful season, for everything to blend in and be successful.
But Conte won it though, and there was a lot of problems that sinking ship, all this stuff. But he managed.
They had
to
money
do it.
back then.
But I think you touched upon one thing that I think is the difference is Conte is such an incredible personality and making an us against the world mentality where he blocks out so much of that. He kind of consumes all of that and he doesn't allow it to touch his players. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing from Inzaghi because not every coach can do that. I think that that's one thing that Conte does extremely well is he takes that pressure off his players. He puts it on himself. But you're definitely right that everything needs to be good in a club. But for me, Inzaghi, and when I say the ups and downs, you have ups and downs in a season. It's normal. But game to game, for me, I see Inter have up and downs in the same match.
It's very bad.
Within the same game, I've seen it so many times before. I can think of a million examples where Inter do so many things well, and it messes with my brain because I always think, I'm like, man, this guy Inzaghi can get his team to play well at times, right?
And then 20 minutes later.
And then they can make so many mistakes at the same moment.
They lose that concentration, the mental.
And that comes down to the coach at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and I've started to, because I believed in Inzaghi. I think that he was a young Italian coach who did well at Lazio.
Very
Because I
well.
think at Lazio, what he had, the players, he overwent what Lazio was in the table, right? With the players that he had
Yeah,
to display.
for sure.
They played a great style. They would always fight against the top teams.
Winning Coppa Italia, Supercoppa.
At Inter, though, it's a different level because you
not
are...
the same pressure as Roma.
Yeah,
exactly.
a bigger club.
Two
You're
different pressure.
You are expected
to win.
now to always win. Whether that's right or whether that's
So-
wrong, you're expected to win. And Inzaghi fails, for me, to transmit that same energy, that same mental strength in his team. Does he play well at some times? Absolutely. Tactically, I think he's there. But also, the defense. Inter won the Scudetto based on your defense. It's not even missing Lukaku. They're second, I think, for most goals in Serie A after Napoli. It's not the goals being scored that's a problem. You need to be able to see out games. You need to transmit that to your defense because he does have the players. And then also off the field, I think you made a great point. There are some choices that don't make any sense. I think of Correa, who was brought into this team. Money spent on Correa where it could have gone elsewhere. That's an Inzaghi because Inzaghi wants Correa.
No, he wanted him.
Gosens, I don't know where I don't know. Maybe it was Inzaghi, maybe it was a club.
maybe not.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
Either
doesn't
way,
matter.
you're a team.
What
Gosens,
about the other
why are you
defender?
spending?
What
Why are
about
you
the other
spending so much money
defender?
on Gosens? And look, he didn't even pay dividends in an area that you didn't need.
Acerbi.
They still, for me, lack a player that wins one-on-ones, who goes one-on-one with a player, could dribble him with some speed and create something out of nothing like Perisic did last year. So there's a couple of things, whether that's the coach that said, I don't want this guy anymore, whether that's the market behind the scenes. You can't really pinpoint it from us from the outside. But I do agree that for me, those question marks about Inzaghi, there's too many ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it's his second year. In your second year, your first year, okay, I gave him credit. I said, you mess up against Milan in the derby where he messed up, where they're up 1-0 and Giroud came back and scored 2 goals. That was an Inzaghi mistake for the players that he put into that game. Your second year, you need to be able to figure those things out.
I agree, Morgan. I want to add now, we saw what he did in the second year. We cut him some slack. The second year that he's in now, he hasn't improved on what he's doing. I think he's progressively gotten worse. Yes, and there's a lot of other factors, but ultimately it goes down to the coach, how they play. To me, he's not a top coach. I don't care how the season ends. I don't think he's going to improve from this.
Well, you got to see how the season ends.
No. I know. I said, but I think
I thought
he's not going
you
to
said
improve.
you don't care how the season ends.
Because I feel like I know what's gonna happen. Compared to how I see him.
Okay, but if he
from
won the
last year,
Scudetto, for example, then
I know-
you can't say
I know,
that.
I'm assuming that he's not going to improve. That's what I'm saying. If he wins, obviously it changes.
He's not gonna win.
I think he's not going to improve. It's going to be the same inconsistent. He's not a top coach for me. I think I've seen enough of him. My question for you guys is:
I've seen enough of him.
No, I'm
No,
being
no,
honest,
I'm
'cause
just-
there's no improvement. It's the same
I got
thing
you,
over
I
and
got
over
you.
again. Do you think he gets the boot at the end of the season? Just assumption.
I think it's
think
very.
so.
I think it's still
might.
premature for us to say. I don't want to say that because it's like prisoner of the
just
moment
based on
type.
what you saw.
I think it's
I don't
basically
wanna
the
say
I know
yeah.
the
Champions
solution
League.
for this, and I know the problem that Inter has. Let me just say it to you. Inter is having the same problem that Napoli had when they had Insigne, Mertens, and company, and Koulibaly.
How so?
Inter right now is always struggling between signing. Skriniar now wanted to sign it, Brozovic and Andanovic. Those were the 3 senators that were holding the whole team together. Okay, Brozovic. Let me just name it one more time. Skriniar and what else did I say?
Andanovic.
And Andanovic.
Andanovic is out of the
De
squad.
Vrij
Well,
also hasn't been performing.
Well, De Vrij is like gone.
He was so good
De
last
Vrij.
season.
Listen to me. Listen to
And then
me.
now complete
How the
opposite.
hell you have Brozovic playing the World Cup, and then all of a sudden, when you're supposed to be producing before the World Cup and after the World Cup for Inter, and you are on the bench?
Well, he's injured.
He was-
he's
yeah.
not being benched. He's
Yeah.
He
injured.
was not
How-
injured
how
when he
come
was playing
taking
in the
a
World Cup.
spot?
All of a sudden,
He's-
Bob
I
is
know.
injured now.
Okay, you could go from not being injured to being injured,
I
Uncle.
doesn't buy it.
Let me-
What-
I
what's
don't
the
buy
other
that.
side?
Doctor X-rays.
I wanted to see it. I don't buy that shit. Sorry for that for my English. But again, the struggle that Inter is having, the same problem, the same virus that Napoli was suffering when Insigne, Koulibaly, and all the stuff that were inside. Aside
So
from
you,
the
so you
fact
think
that
it's so you think it's more the player thing than it is a coach?
no, I agree well actually with the analysis that Ludo had before that La Società, I mean the group and what's his name, Zhang, they are struggling with economics and money. I think the team is going to be sold It's going to be sold by the end of the year. That's why.
Okay, but football. I'm saying football-wise. You mentioned these senators.
Yes.
So you think it comes down to the players, or you think it comes down to the Inzaghi?
I think it's both. I think in this particular case, it's both. I think we'll give 50% of responsibility to Inzaghi. I'll tell you why. Because his way when he makes his substitution, they're really not good.
Very bad.
But how can you be playing? Even the game against Verona, Mike. I mean, I saw that at Verona, they were attacking until the last seconds. They were trying to score and then tie the game. And Inter, they were suffering and just defending like it was like, oh my God, let's hope that nothing goes wrong. Yeah. So Inter is a team that they will play spectacular soccer, like you just said it before, for 60 minutes, and then it will have that lapse of 20 minutes or 25 minutes where they don't even resemble with the team that you saw before.
Look at them against Barcelona. I mean, I think about like knocking Barcelona out. And I mean, they made me so proud because I'm watching that team and I'm saying, my gosh, they're doing so much to play this game to perfection. And then when you watch that team and then you watch them in certain matches throughout the year, it's really hard to grasp that it's the same team, it's the same coaches.
Marco, this is I go back to the same point that you made before. Conte was able to make this umbrella and then just skirmish all the players from all the stuff that was going outside
a lot
the
of
field.
things changed when Conte left. I mean, they bought him out. They said, listen, the
they had some
project is
problem.
changing.
Ludo, they had some problem.
You know, Conte, okay, here's your money, a certain amount of money still paid on that had to be paid on his contract. He goes, listen, we have no money.
Inzaghi cannot really
it's not an easy,
protect the group.
It's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job.
To be fair to him,
you know that the teams, the dimensions have been lowered, because we remember what happened with what happened with Conte. But now it's going to be interesting because you have 16 games left. Lazio and Roma and Atalanta.
Why do you keep saying 16 games?
16. No. Isn't Sunday the last game?
Then it'll be 19. We're halfway through.
No, 6. Meaning the returning
the halfway mark. You're saying the middle.
Right. The halfway mark is
18
Sunday,
games.
18 games left. So now you have Atalanta, Roma, and Lazio 37. No, 34. And you have Inter and Juventus 37, am I right?
I don't know.
So now you have the Champions League
race
really close between Juve, Inter,
Milan.
Well, Milan
is only 1 point on top of them.
And now you have the other 3 teams that are coming up. Atalanta,
Lazio, Roma.
Now,
the race to top 4 is in Serie A is crazy. Now, what happens
if Atalanta Sunday beats Juventus? Now they go to 37. That means they caught Juventus.
That's true.
On Sunday when they play.
They might.
So, So it's the season. There's a whole new season that's about to
enroll.
That's about to start. But there's a lot of factors to be taken into
consideration.
The health of the club. To me, it is very important. What do you see above, outside the technical part? It has what to do with
I want us to talk about those teams real quick. I know we're over an hour into this podcast. It's a long one. There's a lot to talk about.
Mostly
but I want to talk about the Roma, Lazio, and Atalanta. Let's start with Lazio, since we were talking about Inzaghi. That's where he came from. Because there was a quote from Maurizio Sarri that I know people. And we've done it too. We laugh at some of the press conferences that he gives because he complains a lot, and it's funny to see. It's fine to laugh sometimes. But I think he gave a quote that I actually agreed with him on. And they asked him about the fight for Champions League, and he says, I hear so much about this. I hear so much about Lazio needing to do that. And as if Lazio's history, you've always qualified for the Champions League. He says, in the past 10 years, your best result is 4th place. Your worst result is 7th or 8th, something like that. I'm going verbatim off the top of my head. And you know what? I don't disagree with him. They're a team, Lazio, as well, that there are things that bother me about the squad, bother me about the team, and there are things that I really do like. I love that they've seen sort of pragmatic at times this year, where they don't, Maurizio Sarri team doesn't always have to go out and attack and score 7 goals. And, sometimes they're like, let's manage the win. And there's times that I haven't liked them with the lapses that they've had. I think they found Zaccagni, who scored, I believe, 7 goals now. He's
always like that player.
He's become such an important player for the team. Question marks also with Luis Alberto in the midfield. Either way, but bigger picture, Lazio's right there. They're right there in the fight for the top 4. I mean, I feel like sometimes we talk about things like there are certainties. We're not halfway through the season, 18 rounds. So much can happen until then. And then even if Lazio don't get into the top 4, I mean, is that crazy? Did anyone have Lazio into their top 4?
I didn't have Napoli in my top 4.
So I understand. I understand Sarri being annoyed.
I don't think you had to be there.
I understand Sarri being annoyed, where he's like, I'm getting questioned on all these fronts. We're right there. We're a few points. Where in 2 games things can change.
34 to 37.
And then we have like Lazio supposed to be in fourth place. It's supposed to be in Champions League.
So they're playing.
Am I the only one?
There's
They're
not
playing
going top
AC
four.
Milan Sunday.
Yeah, I know it's closer than we
The
think.
next
We
week,
put
I
them in
mean.
a
We
whole
make it
different
seem like, we
dimension.
make it seem like it's done.
The thing is with
it's similar
Sarri,
to the way I think in my-
when Sarri, every time someone named Sarri, Lazio is not playing the way Napoli used to play. It's always compared of what he did in Napoli. That will never happen again. Plus, I think also with Lazio, there are a couple of players who are not happy on the team.
Milinkovic-Savic?
There's a couple of players, him and a couple other guys that are not
Name
happy.
names, Ludo.
What?
We want names.
Hey, names.
Luis Alberto?
Addresses, names, everything.
That they're not
Social
happy
Security.
with the Sarri methods. They're not happy with their playing position. So not everything is going well on that
smooth.
team. But like you guys said, they're only one game away from reaching, fourth.
They started 23 so bad that I think that's where a lot of the voices came from.
Yeah.
They had 1 point against Lecce and Empoli, right? Because Empoli tied the game last second and they lost to Lecce.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the voices came from.
Ludo, let's be honest. Sarri's
say
at
a joke.
Lazio. No.
What's the joke?
Sarri's at Lazio right now. Sarri, he feels Napolitano. He's not from Napoli.
He was born in Naples. Then his family, when he
he's
was
from
2 years old, he
Florence,
moved to Tuscany.
Tuscany. Okay. He's been through so much with Napoli. How
are
do you
you going
think?
with
How do you think he feel? How do you think he's gonna feel if Spalletti wins a Scudetto and he couldn't do it with one of the best teams with Napoli and so on and so forth? He's been there for so long. Well, how do you think his feeling is?
I think
Be
he'll feel
honest.
good. I think
Mike the instigator, right?
No, I'm just being like,
That's what he does.
That's what he does
Spalletti
well,
wins. He's
right?
like, oh, Sarri couldn't win it with this Napoli. What if he wins it? I'm gonna look bad.
Sarri,
You know what I'm trying to
Sarri
say?
is a type of coach.
He's a maestro
I
still
don't
for
see
you,
him-
Ludo. Is he a maestro?
No, say it.
Maestro
Say
D.
it. For me, he is. No, but I like Sarri because he's a down to earth guy. He goes to.
A little
he
too
doesn't
down to
care
earth.
if he's coaching in Serie A or he's coaching in Serie B
Yeah.
or he's making this amount of money. He does it because he loves the game. He marries the game. He works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get his methods across. And he's not the jealous type.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll be happy for the Napoli fans. He'll be happy for the city. I think he left a good vibe in Naples. The Neapolitan fans respect him. And you see the way the Neapolitan fans are. When
Now when they go to
someone
Juve.
respects the shirt and respects the city, when they come back to Napoli, no matter which team they play for, they get a right.
Even though he went to
He went to
Juventus?
He went to
Even though he went to
Juve.
Juventus?
He went to
You think-
Juve.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Did he leave or was he booted?
There was
No, he
there
left.
was there was misunderstanding with he was expecting a phone call at a certain time. When you have two people that are they butt head that they I'm always right. No, I'm always right.
I know somebody like that.
So they don't
This guy here?
right. So
Yeah,
that's
that-
what, but I think
that's what I was looking at.
he's not the jealous type.
So you think he'll be happy? You think he'll be happy?
He's a traditional sock. He's a traditional coach. He wants to play once a week. He wants to play on beautiful fields.
Right.
He always wants to play in the afternoon/evening. He doesn't like to play 6:30 in the morning. He doesn't like to when it's hot. He's very traditional.
It's
But
apples
he's
and
an
oranges,
old-fashioned-
though, Mike.
It tarnishes,
Remember, guys, he
it
came to
tarnishes
Serie
his
A.
coaching career though if that happens.
He-
a little
Wait.
bit, no?
Why does
He
it
came to
tarnish his
Serie A
coaching
when he
career?
was 52, 53 years old.
Why does
because
it
he
tarnish
didn't have
his
a young
coaching
career.
career?
Because if Spalletti wins it with a Napoli now and Sarri apparently one of the best ever Napolis that they had. They couldn't win it when
but they're in a
Juventus was
different
there.
league.
I know it's a
You
different.
can't. It does
I
not
know it's a
tarnish
di-
him. He
You
built,
don't think it messes up?
Not at all. Spalletti said it perfect.
know,
He
man.
said Sarri never won a thing in Napoli. Yet everywhere you go, everyone talks about Sarri. Benitez won a little bit. Nobody talks about Benitez. They talk about
Benitez
Sarri
started that cycle.
because of what he brought to the team. And you can't compare it. The Juventus that Sarri had to go against on Napoli was a completely different monster than, for me, the teams that are here now. It's a way
So
more
you don't affect
competitive.
anything from his coaching career for when he was at Napoli.
He built an incredible team, a team
Okay,
that was
but he didn't
praised
win the
by anyone.
Scudetto.
But you can't just judge based off of winning a
That was
Scudetto.
also
You don't
also
judge just-
great Juventus.
Yeah,
Napoli,
exactly.
Napoli
I get that.
finished,
Juventus
Napoli
were
finished
incredible.
with
But
that's the
91
opposite.
points. 91 points, and you don't win the Scudetto. That's the first time in history.
I get it, but you
That
still
was a
didn't.
great
But you
Juventus
still
team.
didn't win at the
But
end
that's
of the
not
day.
understand. That's not understanding
that's
what
what you
Napoli
see.
fans praise. That's what I'm saying.
I get it.
Spalletti
They
said
played
it
amazing
perfect.
football.
They
I
don't
understand
care.
that.
It's not just about the winning. It's about the style that you bring and the impact that you have on a city. From my understanding, this is how Spalletti says it. That's not what they praise. They don't want the Juventus way of just win and play terrible. That's not how they were, as he says it. We saw Maradona. We saw what beauty was. Sarri's impact is still there in Napoli. It's not going to
I'm not
tarnish it
saying
at all.
it's in there. I
He's
just feel like
respected.
sour grapes a little bit.
No way.
A little sour. No,
I
Ludo, come on.
don't agree with that either.
You're too much of a romantic
okay,
to see it, I
to
think.
Mike's
I know.
point.
Come on,
to
Aldo, help me out here.
To Mike's point, I mean, I don't like the
If
guy.
Antonio's on your side, you know this is a bad
I mean,
argument.
I don't like the guy, but to his point, technically, once he left Napoli, okay, Sarri won everywhere. He won in Chelsea, he won in Torino.
That's
He went to
true.
Chelsea first. He did not go to Juventus after
Okay,
Napoli.
but he
went to
won.
Chelsea.
Okay,
Now
You're making it seem like it's a
keep
good.
going,
You still
keep
want to
going.
move
Now, what he
there.
does, he comes back and he signs up for Lazio. Then everybody says, oh, Sarri games, you have to give it at least 6 months, 1 year. This is the second
Because
year.
everybody wanted to see the same style in Napoli.
And
You
he's
don't have
right there
nobody
for
else
fourth
those
place.
players.
This
He's
is the
not getting
second
fourth
year.
place.
He ain't going to win anything.
he's not gonna- let's be
Sorry.
honest.
But
Come
nobody
on.
said that he's going
So
to win
Mike
anything.
said he's going to win.
To your
He did-
point,
He did not promise. He did not promise.
He's not going to win. Nobody said he's going to win anything.
He did
Okay.
not
What are you
promise
talking
anything.
about?
Nobody
But
said
I
he's
think
going to win anything.
if Lazio finished
It's
top
not about
4,
winning
I
and
think
losing.
it's a great accomplishment.
It's not about winning and
Hey,
losing.
What are we
Listen,
here for?
at a
What
te-
are we here for?
Mike, at a team like
winning
Lazio,
is everything.
Everything. Tell
they
them.
don't understand.
No, yeah, okay.
At a team like Lazio, you're not judged by if you win and if
I'm
you
not talking
lose.
about Lazio. I'm talking about Napoli.
Same thing at Napoli.
Lazio's not winning
The last
anything.
time Napoli won the Scudetto was 1990.
Ludo, would you
You
rather
can't
play
just
good
judge them.
football
You
or
can't
win the
judge them.
Scudetto?
Badoni
Would you rather
scored.
play good football
The
or win the
coach of Lecce
Scudetto?
scored.
Would you rather play good football or win the Scudetto?
They
You
would-
personally. Wait, stop it. You.
We haven't won the.
It's yes or no.
Yes or
Forget
no?
about it.
No,
Yes
it's
or
not.
no?
But
Don't-
it's
no
not yes
lullabies.
or no,
Yes
though.
or no? Scudetto or good football? Pick one.
Black or white.
Pick
For me,
one.
both.
No,
Exactly.
come on.
Yeah. That is the most Napolitan answer of all time.
Ludo, what are you
For me,
doing?
Ludo, shake my hand.
Do you hear this guy?
Mike, I like to live those emotions. I mean, my heart cannot
This
take
is
it.
emotion. Look
I'm
at the
58 years
trophy.
old. I'm not, I've seen it. Mike, I've
See
seen
it
it.
again. It's nice
I've
to
been there.
win.
I've done that. I've been
Do
there.
it again.
Ludo,
I've
to
been
Mike's
there.
point,
Thank
okay?
you, Anto.
Again, I hate the guy, but to Mike's point.
Okay, we got through
your
that.
body
Maybe,
next
okay.
to you, your body next to you, he was bragging when Juventus won.
Yeah.
8 games in a row,
It's
1-0.
seasons.
Now, all of a sudden, we've been praising this Sarri's ball, whatever. The maestro,
Don't say it. Don't make me say it.
Okay? It's either you win or you don't.
Thank
Okay,
you.
can I
Anto.
explain why?
That's how I see it. Win or lose. That's it. I
That's
don't
because
care
you
about good
support
football.
AC Milan. At AC Milan, that's the way that it is. At Napoli, it's not like that. To say it's not like that.
Ludo,
They've won
he's
2
disrespecting
Scudetti.
you almost.
Do you see that disrespectful?
Well, we don't have time because we're minute 17 in.
Oh, no,
It
we'll
goes
go
back-
all night if we
it
have
goes
to. I want
back
to get
to
this
the-
point
to the-
across.
It goes back to the south against the north. It's not easy to win in the south compared to the money and the teams that are in the north. It all comes down to revenue, how much you can pay. Guys, there's a lot of factors that
I
go
get
into
that.
You're
it.
not expected
It's
to win
not-
at Lazio and Napoli. You do not judge a season at Lazio and Napoli by did you win or did you lose. You don't judge it by that.
You
It's
want to be
impossible to.
Listen, Napoli. I just think based on the amount of money they spend and the players that they have and the culture that they're playing, I think it's nice to see. I'm very happy, honored to be a Napoli fan and to be part of that city and to root for that team because it is my city. But I also know that from the south, it's not easy to win. Of
course,
it is
yes.
not.
Okay.
Not many people understand this.
That's
this
why you
thing.
can't judge
Not
based off
many
winning
people-
and losing for
you
that
have to
side.
be part of the city. You have to be part of all that scheme in order to understand what I'm trying to say. It's not
16
easy for
million
everybody
wage
to
bill.
say.
Let's just
I
remind
wanted the
you,
last
16
word.
million
I
ring.
wanted the last word on this, just to disprove what you just said right now. I want the last word. You bring one of the most winningless coach at Napoli, and this guy here is on the verge of winning the Campionato for you guys. Okay? So, where did you put this? Right, Mike? Where did you put this in the contest that Lazio is coaching Lazio, this Sarri, and now Spalletti that has never won anything in Italy except for Shakhtar in I don't know,
Zenit, Russia,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, in Russia over there. Where did you put this? How did you make those things? You know,
And number one, he didn't win yet, so you can't ask him that question.
We didn't win anything.
Guys,
He's
you
gonna
guys are
win.
going crazy
We
with
did
this.
not win anything.
And for Sarri, it is not
We
a failure.
just
What he did
went
at Naples, for me, Sarri is still incredible. That he fought with that Juventus until that moment. It's still incredible. The football that he played is still talked about. He didn't win, and the football is still talked about.
Let me
in the
remind you
city.
of something, okay?
Tell him, Anto.
Wait. Let me remind you of something, both of you.
It's like he's yelling at his kids or
Sarri
something.
is responsible for Napoli not to win when he was coaching. He had Zielinski on the bench.
That's right.
He had he only used the same 11 players until they actually dropped dead, even when they had no arms and no legs left.
Oh, boy.
Okay? So, Sarri is responsible. Sarri could have won the campionato
The history.
when it was time to win.
There
He
we
did
go.
not,
Tell
and he
him.
failed. Okay, Mike?
Tell him.
There you go.
Aldo, look at the
They're two
history of
clowns on
Serie
this.
A. Look how many Scudettos have been won by the teams from the south, and how many Scudettis have won from the team from the north. Who won from the south? Cagliari has one, Napoli has two, Roma has two. That's it. You're done. You finished. Compared to how many from the north?
50,
See, you got to
60.
take all these factors into consideration.
But I didn't even go that far, Ludo. I just asked you personally if you rather win or good for. I didn't talk about
But they
North
don't.
South.
But that's
Not
not
about-
understanding
but I was
Napoli.
asking you.
But that's
It's
not
not easy to
understanding
win,
Napoli.
but for me,
I'm not
if
saying
I
it's
have
easy
to
to
win,
win.
if I
Pick
have to
one.
win, for me, if I have to win one every 30 years, for me it's like Juventus, Inter, and Milan winning 30
But I'm
in a
not
row.
saying that. I'm
for
saying
me,
for
it has
now-
more value.
I get that.
because of where I come from.
So how much more value would it be if you guys keep winning consecutively?
It's like
I'm
the
not
Mets.
comparing.
But hold on,
I know
one second,
it's not
because
easy.
you're asking the wrong question. You're not understanding what they
I
value.
I
For
understand
you,
it.
for you,
I get what he's
how
saying.
important is playing the style that you're playing compared to winning?
Mark, for me, it has to be it has to be a combo. We are grateful because we have a very good team. We're having fun watching, winning the way we have been winning, and every game is like heart palpitations. But at the end, we also want to see
win.
want to see something. But we understand that we cannot do it every single year, and we cannot compete with the teams against the North. So you might win this year, but you cannot repeat the following years. It is not going to happen. It cannot happen.
But you still feel those same emotions.
Of what? Yes.
It's
well,
like
the
the
emotions
Yankees and the
because
Mets. Look at that, look at
guys,
that.
it's the emotions of the team, of the city, of where you come from, and the team that you're
I
rooting
get that.
for.
100% get that.
It's not
I understand.
understandable.
I understand
Okay,
the
we
North
gotta
and the
talk about
South.
Roma, guys.
They have different.
Guys,
Talk about
we're an
Roma,
hour and a half, and we didn't talk about
Oh,
Roma.
Mike,
Boy.
oh, Mike.
Damn, we're going
That
deep in
got
this.
ridiculous.
Shut us down, Mike. That's
Roma
it.
non
shut
fa
us
la
down.
stupida
Stupida.
stasera.
Okay, let's go. What about Roma? What about Roma?
Roma. No, things. I feel like things are starting to click a little bit.
Wait till
in-
next week.
in
We see
Rome.
what's wrong with Roma.
No, but I think it's the same thing. They're a team that's right there. They're close to the top four. That was the goal of Roma's top four. I know people got excited in the summer about Scudetto. Anyone who went there, it just got crazy. They got loopy. There's no way that they were going to fight for the Scudetto. I love Paulo Dybala. What Paulo Dybala is doing. We've said this for years about Paulo Dybala, but I'm happy because he was in a difficult position at Juventus where they did not want to have anything to do with him. They thought that he was overpaid. They thought that he was not somebody they could build a project around. And yes, right now it's easy to say that he's healthy, but the season that he's having at Roma, I feel like he found a fan base that loves him for who he is. He found a place where he can have a little bit less pressure. He can be the guy. Everything is reliant on him, and I think that that's something that he thrives on. I think that he's perfect in a city like Rome and in a team like Rome where he is the man. It's not at Juventus where there's 4, 5, 6 other players that all need the ball. He's the person, and the game is relying on him. That's a lot of pressure, but he's such a talented player. And for me, when he's healthy, when he plays his game, the man is unplayable. I mean, the goals that he scored were great. And the last thing I'll say for him is that Tammy Abraham, I know people keep saying he's not scoring goals, right? He's got 3 goals, right? Or 4 goals this season. He got 2 assists for Dybala, and he works his ass off. He fights. He hustles. He'll chase down defender. And I don't think of course, as a striker, you want to score. But I think he understands that in this moment, he doesn't have the knack for goal scoring. It comes and it goes. But he's doing everything else right, and the goals will come. And the fact that he's so happy when his teammate scores, and then Dybala has that same amount of respect to point to him and say, it's him. It's him the one. Developing that in a team is something special.
I agree. That Tammy Dybala link up, with that chest down to the Dybala volley, I could have seen that a million times, and I'll never get tired of that. But yes, they're doing good right now. But the problem with me with Dybala, same thing at Juve is it's not sustainable because he's doing good now. But when he gets injured, and he will because he is injury prone, unfortunately, Roma are going to be missing someone that produces so much in attack, and it's just going to be an endless cycle of endless cycles. And in the beginning, I thought Juve were making a mistake by selling Dybala. You know what? Maybe it was better because Dybala's great when he's on the field, but you can't guarantee he's going to give you a certain amount of games.
But he's played 16 games so far this season.
I get it, but just based on his history, I don't think it's a sustainable thing, and I don't think he's going to be that person that's going to guarantee you a certain amount of games. I hope he proves me wrong, but that's just how I see with Dybala.
Let me circle back.
I love Dybala. I think he's great.
I partially agree with Mike. Dybala is a champion. To me,
He's
for
amazing.
me, Inter missed a big opportunity in not signing him and then
Yeah.
going for Lukaku. But we're talking about Tammy Abraham. That's what I wanted to see on Leao. That I don't see it. Tammy Abraham, he's got fire on his eyes.
He's not scoring now.
It doesn't matter. His attitude. That's what I don't want. I don't see on Leao. This guy comes back and he defends. Leao loses the ball and he stays on top of there. In other words, hey, I tried. That's it. It's not good enough. I want you, Leao. If you're looking at me, I love you to death. But if you know, in order for you to earn 100% Antonio, you're gonna spill blood on the field. I want to see you angry for the game, and you're not. Okay, go watch some of the cartoon of Pink Panther, and then you judge me on what I'm just comparing you to, because I know he's got the skill. I know he can do it. He just has to just prove it to me. He hasn't done it yet, and it's not the top player.
Okay, we're talking about Roma, Anto. You keep going back to Leao.
Okay. That's what I compare Leao. I'm just trying to compare Leao with Tammy Abraham. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, two different players. Okay, but that's what I wanted to see. He's got the speed, he's got the skill and all the stuff, but he's angry. He's not angry for the game. He's not. Okay, that's it.
Now,
Not on Leao.
This guy talked about Milan.
Not on Leao. Not on Milan. Please don't think about that.
I've never been a
Congratulations to
fan.
Tammy Abraham. It doesn't matter how many goals you score.
I agree with that.
It's what you put on
You
the
do on
field.
the
I agree
field.
with that.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of Dybala for one simple reason. I strongly believe that Juventus, he's been at Juventus for many years. I think Juventus did give him the opportunity to become a leader, to take a team and put it on his shoulders and take them to the promised land. And he has failed a few times. Now the World Cup comes along. Yes, he did play partially. He did not play that much, but he still scored the winning penalty. He scored a penalty. He played. He's still a world champion, and he deserved it. So probably a player, by winning a World Cup, it puts
Something.
psychologically, you go to another level because you consider yourself a world champion, and now you feel that certain things that you could not do before, you could do it now. So I'm willing, and I do want to change, and I sincerely hope that Dybala will show the consistency throughout the season. I sincerely hope that he will play every minute, he will not get hurt, and Roma will finish in the top 4, because I do hope that this player can once deliver, be consistent, and show what he actually can do, not only with the quality of his feet, but also with his brain, by being in the game and taking Roma on the shoulders. What worries me about Roma is sometimes the attitude of Mourinho, that he pushes those players, and certain players on the team of Roma have a short fuse, like Zaniolo, like Pellegrini. And when they get that short fuse that they feel it's coming from the outside, that's when the yellow cards, the red cards, the suspensions, and the injuries come about. And Roma cannot afford to do that. If everything comes together and Mourinho does his part and he stays calm on the sideline, even if sometimes the referee the call does not go your way, and you're able to manage those players, like Zaniolo yesterday, he didn't play because he had a fever. That's what Thiago Pinto said. Question mark. Did he really have the fever? Did something happen? Keep it out of the press and keep it out of the locker room.
Which is a great thing that Roma have done. They've been very good at being silent.
In the past, everything
but
was
since
leaking.
But since Friedkin's been there, there's nothing that leaks.
Correct.
The same way.
Agree with you 1,000%. So now I think it starts from the outside. Mourinho behaving himself, even in certain situations. Hold it in. Do not give the opportunity to these couple of guys that have that short fuse to get thrown out and get red cards that can hurt the team.
In the long run.
In the long run, or in the following 3-4 games.
The one thing I'll say about Roma, and it's not anything new, I just feel the need to say this just because we're talking about this. I've always said they're reliant on the individual talent of certain players to win them games. Very similar to Juventus in a different level, in my opinion. And I do think that Jose Mourinho, a lot of people talk about the style that he's brought. What has Roma improved? For me, what's improved at Roma, it's not the style of play, but I'm not surprised by that. It's not the way that they play. You're not going to see a Spalletti. You're not going to see a Sarri in terms of the movements and the creating spaces and the pressing. You're not going to see that. What he improves in clubs, what he improves in teams is character-wise. For me, this Roma side has more fight than I remember a Roma side having in a long time. That's what he's brought to this team. Losing 2-0 against Milan and having the ability to get back, whether Milan allowed them to get back or not, because you still have the mental challenge
they believed it.
with your team. They have this spirit about them that, for me, that's what Mourinho's improved. And everyone keeps judging, in my opinion, Jose Mourinho off of winning, right? And I go back to the same argument that we were kind of having before. At a team like Roma, they're not expected to win.
Correct.
They have to challenge for top 4. Now, if they miss out on top 4, we have to see how they miss out. 1 point, 2 points. You know, the quality in Serie A is so strong that it's tough. They need to be there is an important part. But if you listen to his interviews, and that's what I always wonder about people that just judge Mourinho, do you listen to what he's saying? He's talking about developing young players and the need to go back to that because they can't spend. He used the example of Chelsea. He said, I've been at clubs where I could spend everything I wanted. I've done that. That's a dream of coaches. That's not the reality of Roma. And judging the two is not fair. What he's had to do is get players, get Bove, get Zalewski, get young players who can play their part in the team and to try and build something that's more than just we're going to try to win the league, which, again, a team like Roma hasn't won since 2001. So, yes, you could argue Roma and what he's done, but that's what I say.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, it took the words right out of my mouth. Friedkins, they bought the team, a lot of debt. So the owners, they went to Mourinho and said, listen, the wallet is empty. You have to put young players. We have the Primavera. We have youth players. They have to try to get. And if you notice, he goes often to watch Primavera play. He watched the Primavera team, tries to grab those players and put them into the first squad because the money is not there and he does not have the same money that he had to spend when he was at the other clubs where, the wallet was
endless.
Ludo, by the way, this is Mourinho's second season, right? What do you see for Roman fans to be happy? What do Roma have to do this season?
They have to develop players. And young players and try to create a project where you can finish top 4 and then ultimately fight with the Scudetto with the same team. These young players paying dividend. A project. So, it all comes down to planning. It all comes down to having a project. We always go back to Arsenal. Look where Arsenal was 3-4 years ago. Look where they are today. And look at the players that they have.
So they expected top 4? Roma fans expected top 4 or no?
I think the second year, this year they have a very good
chance of finishing there.
It's going to be interesting. The top 4 race will be interesting, and it starts next Sunday with the 3 teams at 34 and the other teams at 37 and 38.
So, but that's my problem with judging them off of where they finish. And I get that it's a result business, right? But if you listen to our conversation, we just named 7 teams that should finish in the top 4. We said Napoli have to finish in the top 4.
It's
Inter,
a cutthroat job.
Milan, Juventus all have to finish in the top
job.
4, right? Then we also said that Lazio and Sarri, they're being mad because it's his year 2 and he's supposed to finish in the top 4. But now Roma have Mourinho. They got to finish in the top 4. There's 4 spaces. For me, it's more about, it's like how you lose that spot and what are you actually building for the future. You lose by 1 or 2 points or you're right there. If you're showing the steps to go forward, there are moments in time. Not everyone can finish in those coveted spots. So we can't say you're a failure because you didn't get this objective. Okay, maybe you didn't get the objective. Circle back. What did you achieve? Did you improve the character of a team? Did you develop young players? Are we building a basis?
And what do we need to fix for next year?
Are we building a basis to be able to challenge against those teams that right now are winning, maybe because they have more quality, not more ideas, and maybe in 2 years they're going to be a little bit lower? Are we getting to that point to be able to fight a little bit more?
But how long does that stretch? You're like, okay, we're not seeing any results. Just same thing with Allegri. He won it with Juve, but their target was Champions League. They did one more season. They're doing well, win Scudetto, but he never ended winning the Champions League. So they cut ties, even though they kept winning the league. They're just where's that fine line?
I think expectations.
You know what I'm saying? Where's that line that cuts it?
I think expectations, because that Juventus side that you're talking about with Allegri spent a lot of money. They brought in Cristiano Ronaldo, who was the golden boy. So their expectations, because they won the Scudetto, yes, you hit that target, but they expected more.
It bought them time. They bought them time by winning that Scudetto.
But again, it goes back to, what do you do? It's not simply losing the Champions League. Yeah. They went out to Ajax in the Champions League. They went out to Porto. They went out to Lyon. It's different than you're getting to the Champions League final, or you're losing to Real Madrid or Manchester City, and then you say, okay, as a club, how do we get to this point? It's the way that you go about that. So it's a similar answer to the expectations for Roma. It's like, at the end of the season, what improved? Did we develop these players? Do we have a real way to, okay, we can only spend this amount of money now, but as a club, we're going to get to that point. And people keep thinking that Mourinho is only going to be there for 3 years because he stayed at 3 years at Chelsea, at Inter, at Real Madrid, whatever. But he has said that, don't judge me based off that before, because it's not the same. Yeah, sure. I'm not having hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into a team where I need to squeeze it out in 3 years. He said, why do you think that I'm not going to stay at Roma longer term? If it happens, if it doesn't happen,
if it's a
you don't know.
serious project, and
it should be long term.
And there's a way to work and make
it. Last word is mine.
Go ahead. Say something.
Mourinho does not have the expectation to either be fourth or to win anything. So whether Mourinho makes to the fourth place or whether Mourinho stays fifth or sixth, no one is going to hold him.
Well, that's not true, but okay.
That's not true. Nobody is going to hold him. He has not promised anything. He has not said anything on the paper that said Roma this year is going to be making the Champions League.
Well, that is true. There's expectations that come even if you don't set the expectations.
You don't have to set
yourself.
it. You don't write it down there to say.
But right, the owners did spend some money. I mean, the salary for Dybala, the salary for the coach. They got Belotti. I think Belotti was on
so
a
many
free,
of those guys were on loans. Like Wijnaldum's on a loan.
Well,
they need to do better with that.
Gets those players.
Bro, buy some defenders, man. Yo, if you get some money, buy some defenders.
By the way, Ludo,
has
anyone ever told you that you look like Jose Mourinho a little bit?
Oh my God!
Some people have.
What do you think? Do you think when you look in the mirror, it's like, oh, I look like a?
That's not a compliment. That's not a compliment. I don't find them a compliment.
Ludo, what do you think? Do you think
you look much better looking than Jose Mourinho?
Similar. I didn't say completely. Similar. Yeah,
I can see it.
And you got the calcio brain too, like Mourinho.
No,
he's a champion. Mourinho's a champion. He won the Champions League.
Of what?
What do you mean of what?
Of everything,
guys. He won with Porto, Inter.
Guys, it was nice talking to you. Okay, have a nice weekend.
Thanks for joining us, Mourinho.